Welcome to part 2. This is John working on my bumpers. Bumper. Back one's okay, hopefully. So yeah, this is a 1992 W124 300E. And it's my son's car, and he kind of cracked the bumper here. So I'm trying to do some repair. So what I'm doing now, I've got it all taken apart. I'm just taking the Dremel, and I'm going to, I've decided first I'm going to use some JB Weld to get this to hold, so it holds together, and I'm taking down the plastic with this, taking it down to bare plastic so the JB Weld will stick, and just, you know, a little bit of this action, get it like black like that to where it's down the plastic, and then I'll sandpaper. So that idea is as the some of this JB Weld right here, I've used it a lot on different plastics, and there's a certain way of putting it on. It is an epoxy, and it likes it when the surface is a little rough for it to stick to. So that's why I'm taking all of this off here, any of the paint, primer, whatever. Once I get it glued up here, I'm going to clamp it. It's kind of hard to get it to go into the right spot that I want to, but we'll figure it out. Then I got a crack over here. I think a couple cracks along here that I got to do. So once that sets up, it should set up, I think it's like 5 minutes. Epoxy. Once it sets up good, then I'm going to I've got some screen material for like windows, and it's got a little plastic, a little metal, real thin, and I'm going to put a couple layers along the inside here, and then I'm going to use this two-part epoxy from Loctite. I've had this for a while. Got 2 more bottles of this, and that's 5 minute. Also, temperature is 70 degrees Fahrenheit. This kind of stuff here likes it when it's like, you know, warm. When it's like 80 degrees out, it'll set in 5 minutes and be hard as rock. But in 70-degree weather, it's gonna take a while for it to harden up. So for today, I just want to get this crack fixed. Any other imperfections, I'm going to let it sit overnight probably, and then I'm going to sand down the front part and then repaint it. Got some primer here. It is a plastic bumper, but it's already been treated with primer and paint from the factory. So I'm just going to basically just sand this down a little bit and get rid of some of these deep scratches the previous owner did. And then I'm going to use some of this red glazing putty to fill it in a little bit, sand that, prime it, and then I'm going to paint. And I've got this here. I've had this for a few years, but it's pretty much the same exact color. Yeah, I think this is the color right here on it, but it's pretty, you know, I mean, it's not perfect, but you know what? You won't even be able to tell once it's on there. sides. I got it all sanded, a little lacquer thinner. Get anything off. You just want to promote adhesion. And now it's just mixing that stuff 50-50%. I might just start on this major crack first, let it harden up, and then start working on the other ones, because the fender, it just wants to flex and stuff. And start the project. So I'm just going to leave this clamped here so it holds together, or the whole thing will pull apart. It's already hardening up, like within 3 minutes of me mixing it, and now it just, my last swash, it just, and it was like getting hard. So yeah, so I got it up to here, the major crack, and then these are all little ones. I can do that separately. And once this is hardened, I could take this off and then put some more right there and finish it off, and then start the mesh epoxy. Yeah, here's the mesh. It's just screen material, kind of fiber. It's just window screen, and then I'll cut it and shape it there, and then put epoxy down, lay this over it, put more epoxy down over it, and it'll just give kind of a stronger area. And you can use, I mean, I've seen it on YouTube where they use, you know, if you just have gauze, you know, the gauze when you hurt yourself, you can use that. Or if you have something steel, you could use that. But I think that this would, I think this would be fine. About 4 hours to set up, and about 15 hours to fully set up. So it's doesn't come off on, you know, on my hand or anything. Okay, it's about 8 p.m. now. The JB weld is all set up, and now I applied the 2-part epoxy. So I just got strips. I laid some down. I laid it on there. Kind of, you know, slather it on back and forth. Folded it over. Put more on there. So hopefully that'll be okay. Hopefully it sets up. I took a blow dryer and kind of heated it up. Because temperature, what is it now? 64 degrees Fahrenheit outside. About, yeah, maybe 67 in here. Like I say, it's better when you have like 80, 90 degree temperature. Then the stuff sets up real good. But when it's colder, it's kind of slow. So I use the blow dryer to kind of speed it up, fool it, right? So until tomorrow. It is now day 3. Another beautiful day. They predict rain. I don't get it. Anyways, so day 3 on the bumper. So I've got the epoxy on there last night. It dried overnight. It's really strong. It's still setting up. It'll probably take 24 hours for it to fully set up, but it's strong. It doesn't bend or anything like that anymore. Got a little patch over there. Now some might say, why don't you just get a new bumper? Why go through all this? Well, yeah, we could do that. I mean, I priced it out. Let's see, a new bumper was about, between $99 and $150. That's the bumper without any of the stuff on it, right? Comes to you and it's probably black. So say that's about $100, and then the shipping, because it's an oversized package, was like $100. So you're about $200 there. And then, being that it's naked plastic, you have to buy some adhesion promoter so that whatever you paint and on there sticks to the plastic, sticks to the bumper. And the proper way of doing it would be to get automotive grade paint, either 2-stage or single stage. And that paint's expensive. I mean, this would probably take less, maybe a pint, but they don't sell pints, they sell quarts. So the quarts are about $89, $83 for decent stuff, So you buy the paint, then you got to buy the hardener for the paint. That's another like $25, and then you got to buy the primer. It's got to be a 2K primer, kind of maybe a urethane primer that kind of bends with plastic. And then you got to buy the hardener for the primer, So it just, by the time you're done, you've spent like close to $500, So far, I've spent $7. I bought one can of primer. I had all this other stuff laying around for years. I use stuff. I'm not a hoarder, but I know what to save. And a lot of stuff like this JB Weld, these epoxies and stuff, I keep them in the garage refrigerator. All the caulking, the silicones, all the stuff that gets bad in tubes, I keep it in the refrigerator. And it extends it for, I have some stuff there that, like this glazing putty, that's about 20 years old. I can still use it. But sometimes if you keep it out, it'll harden up and you go, oh crap, I gotta go buy some. So I do that. And I just save stuff, like little pieces of wood, screws. I just save all that stuff, and I have a shed. So it all comes in handy and you use it. So anyways, let's take a look at this repair. Yeah, it's really strong. When this is fully set, I could probably drop this out of a 10-story building, and the only thing that would be good would be what I repaired. You got it turned over. So there's the crack. This will all be sanded and filled in with the bonding putty. Man, these scratches, look at this. Like I said, the previous owner was a wildlife photographer, and this is what she used to get pictures of butterflies in Northern California. She'd drive through fields and stuff. You can see all this crap. My son didn't do any of this stuff. This was here when we got it. This bumper's always bothered me. So this has got to be sanded and filled in. Look at that. Who does that? Who takes their Mercedes and drives through fields? It's a car. It does what I want it to do. My parents bought it for me. That's when it was brand new, Big ol', amazing. A good part, I don't really have to paint this. This will all be hidden. So I can use all my paint up on this. Yeah. Not bad. But yeah, this doesn't, you can't even bend it, Cool. So now I'm just gonna start probably wet sanding it. With sanding, I'll use a 320 wet dry paper and then a 400, and that's about it. Once I primer it, you can wet sand it, but man, it goes through that primer really quick. Leaves it super smooth, but it goes through the primer really quick, and you got to reprimer it. So I'll dry sand the primer, a lot less waste. It's just a bumper, right? Okay. Okay, after sanding for, oh my God, about an hour and a half, 320 grit wet, it takes more off. There is a lot of imperfections in this thing, but I took my drill motor and put this attachment so I wasn't sanding forever. It's right here. I've had that for years. First time I used it. But it's good that the scratches were so deep. So, you know, it's not going to be a perfect bumper. Like this scratch is the deepest right here. And the scratch is there all along. And I just need to just rinse it off. Put one coat of primer on it so it'll show all the bad spots. And then the putty, glazing putty, spot putty. And then sand that down, dry. Primer it again and just keep going until you don't see any, or you don't see as much. I mean, it's under, you know, you don't really see this part that much. What you see is mostly the sides and the top. Okay, I set up in the backyard because it's kind of windy out in the front yard. Well, it's day 4. Day 4 of the bumper from hell. And now it's kind of getting overcast. They call it May gray, and then in June it'll be June gloom. So, anyways. So here it is. I just drug it out from the backyard. Got some filling to do. This kind of a high spot right here. I don't know, I might be able to grind this down just a little bit more. We'll see how it comes out with some putty on it. Why does it take so long to do this? Well, because you have to wait for stuff to dry, you know. If it was really hot, like in July and August, and the stuff had dry, right now, I mean, it's been sitting overnight. It's dry, but it's not 100%. I can still sand it. But, yeah, it's just drying time, you know. People don't realize that. I mean, you know, some of these body shop places, they've got rooms that they can heat up and get their stuff to heat up, like during the winter time, and move it along. But most of the time you're waiting for product to dry so you can move forward. Anyways, I'm going to keep working. Okay, we've got putty, glazing putty on all the bad places. I'll work from there, let it dry up. Looks like sun's gonna start coming out. I'm gonna move this thing over into the sun. Okay, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm gonna go ahead and polish this stuff up. I don't know if you can see it or not. But there's hey, there I am. There's a lot of scratches, real fine. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. This is buffing. It's almost like it's like a jeweler's rouge almost. And they're all pretty much clean and polished. It's all in the details. Okay, so I got all the putty sanded down, wet sandpaper, wet and dry, 220. That's what I like to use. I use it wet because it takes it down really quick. Then I went over it with the dry 400 and get all this, the primer down. It'll smooth it out. And I just went back over the trouble areas. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to look a little bit better. I went over all the trouble areas again with the glazing putty, just about five spots. Let that set up, sand it down, prime it one more time. I mean, look at this. It's just for for one more coat of primer. I think I'll do it. This should dry about 20 minutes, and then wet sand that. Wash the whole thing down again. Okay, final coat of primer. I think it was, the cracked part was right here. You better see it. There's still a little bit of imperfections, but you know what? I don't care. You're never gonna see that unless you're under the car looking at it. Yeah. Luckily the sun came out, so it's nice and warm. This stuff will set up in the next hour. Then I can dry sand it, wash it off, and then paint it maybe tomorrow. I'd like to get it all done today. I'm burned out. Yeah. Okay, I got the first coat of paint on. It's gone on okay. Had one bug land on it. It's okay. It's to be expected when you're painting outdoors. Yeah, I think it'll be okay. I think 2 good coats will do the trick. And that's the gray. It looks just like the primer. That's cool. It's called, the color is from Valspar, and it's called Gray Smoke Infusion, or Gloss Smoke Infusion. They don't make it anymore. But I saw on Amazon there's a lot of gloss smoke colors, and that's just about the same exact color as what Mercedes used. I hate spray paint. It starts spitting, Anyways, I'll put one more heavy coat on in the morning. Now day 5. A little overcast. Those are pretty cool, aren't they? Okay, so I have the final coat of paint on. A little orange peel. Not horrible. For spray paint, I hate spray paint. The top came out pretty decent. So there's about maybe 2.5 coats. I got this part here. Yeah, it's kind of nasty looking, but put a second coat on it. That'll be good. The thing I don't like about spray paint is it spits out little, blobs. A few bugs. Can still see some of the scratches, but not as bad as before. I'm just glad the top part came out pretty good. So, you know, even though it's gloss paint, the original paint is kind of a matte finish, a semi-gloss. But in my experience, most things that are painted with glossy paint like this will eventually turn into kind of a satin. You know, it loses its gloss after a while. So I'm not worried about that part. Now there are different ways of fixing cracked bumpers, plastic bumpers. There's stuff all over the internet. There's these guns that melt like plastic staples into the crack and help you, straighten it out and all that stuff and fill and all that. But, that costs money too. Be nice to have. How often are you going to use it unless you're always, cracking your bumpers? I did it this way because this is the way that I did it with the Kia. I took all the cladding all the way around. I had a tent built right here and sawhorses and chairs upside down and bumpers and, I mean, you name it, man. It was something like, I don't know, 10 big pieces. And I used my compressor with a cheap HVLP gun. It came out real good, but I filled it in with the body filler or the glazing putty like that and stuff. I didn't have any cracks, but I did have a lot of scratches. And that was about 3 years ago, and it's held up real good. I mean, you can, I used a single stage paint. I didn't buff it out or anything. But it's fine, so this will definitely work. And so far, I've spent, $7? But 5 days, maybe I'll put it on tomorrow, maybe tonight if it dries. I should put it out in the sun, but they said it might rain, so. Yeah, and also I forgot to mention when you in between sandings and stuff like that, and the final wash down before paint, you can get panel prep, stuff that takes all the grease off of it and before you spray it with paint. Or you can do what I do. I just used a little bit of Dawn dish soap on a sponge and a brush, hose it down, get it all lathered up, wash it off, and it takes all the grease off. And you can also use it to do dishes. So that's about it. So I guess the next thing we're gonna do is put it on. I like that came out pretty nice. That'll look okay. Remember that chrome thing is gonna go right here, so you're only gonna see like this part, and then there's the big black impact strip that I treated it with some Aerospace 303 yesterday at Aylex. Really nice. Aerospace 303 comes through again. Look at that. It's not even greasy. And it's the same day. And there's the bumper. Paint's kind of dry, pretty dry. I'll let it sit in here overnight. You can barely even see there was any damage there. Oh, and I did touch all that stuff up, got the rust off of it, and painted it white. All right, I'm putting the chrome back on, so these are the clips right here. And they go in, it's really weird, they go in, let's see. Yeah. So this flat part is out that way. It doesn't go up against there. It's this round part, and they do that so that these can be turned because they're kind of like half round, and they they form against this round part of the bumper to hold everything tight. So it's this side right here that you start putting it in, and you put it up at an angle. Ah, like that. Pain in the butt, huh? See that? Yeah, these blasted clips are not easy to put on, especially what I'm trying to do, because I got paint that's kind of fresh. But if you're doing the same thing and you got to put these things back on, it's easier to have the bumper over, but it wants to fall over. It doesn't want to sit straight. So, you know, you do what you do. So what I did is, what I'm trying to do, it seemed to be working, is I just jammed a screwdriver on that side, and then I just take a piece of metal, some kind of I used a drill bit right here, and I just push it down. Then I take the screwdriver out, and then you have it opened up just a little bit. See that? So that'll go through that pin, and then you can push it in the rest of the way and pull the drill bit out. That might help. But yeah, they're blasted. You could do it, you know. I don't know how they did it at the factory. They probably did it by hand. You wear gloves, man. You gotta push on this thing to, you know, it's got to be opened up so that little center thing in there has to clip into that thing, clip into that pin. Okay, on the impact strip, there's 2 foam pieces that are about on each side. There's 2 of them, or there's 1 on each side. So what I did is I turned this thing over. I used some double-sided tape, just a couple pieces, and glued them to the underside of this. So when I go to put it on, it lines up, because it has to line up to all these little holes or things in there. Because if you try to do it loose, it's just gonna get, you know, off. So that's what I did. And we are done. Looks a lot better. And there's no crack. Pretty decent. Now look at the color. Color looks pretty good. It's not Mercedes paint. Be nice to do all those panels, huh? I'm gonna repaint the wheels this summer. Not bad. I got the tow hook. Tow hook cover is back on. I repaired it. It has a couple where you stick it in these two little holes. There's like these plastic things that if you open it, those plastic things are supposed to hold it and keep it from falling off. I retrofitted those. I got some stainless steel wire and used that instead of plastic holders, and made it so that it can be open and it just hangs a little bit, doesn't fall off. Not bad. Easy repair, just super, I don't know. It was just super time consuming because it was just so many scratches and so many cracks in it. Then having to wait for things to dry, it actually took me 6 days. Today's day 6, was just putting it back on. About 45 minutes it was back on. Yeah. And now what they say, it's good. The weather is warming up, so it could take less time if you got warm weather. But if you got to wait for everything to dry, the epoxy, the JB Weld, the primer, the paint. Anyway, so I'm done with that. The next repair is going to be, I'm going to replace the rubber for the mirrors. These things, it broke right here. I JB welded it, but it's real brittle, both sides. They're arriving today, so it's not horrible, but still they're fragile. You could just hit it and it would crack and break. Anyways, this is John, and I am out. Later.